Hello there. My name is Jasom Jensai. Welcome to this stream where we're going to be discussing The Bad Batch in its entirety, all 16 episodes, but specifically the last three because I haven't reviewed those yet and they're the finale. So we're going to cover all three of those in detail and then probably just discuss the entire show in its entirety. And we'll probably touch on other elements from the show while discussing those three. I'm pretty confident we will, or I will, I should say. If you want to join me, there's the chat if you're watching live, and you can always leave a comment if you're not watching live. That works too, and I will get back to you later, but just not live. So, if you're not watching live and you want to tune in next time, it's probably going to be Saturday at 7 o'clock, unless this is like way in the future and I've changed schedules or, I don't know, sometimes things happen and I can't stream on a Saturday, so I have to adjust. But either way, thank you for tuning in, regardless of if you're tuning in live or if you're tuning in not live. There really should be a better word for not live. Either way. So yeah, Bad Batch. All 16 episodes. Before we get to all that, though, the question of the stream. As always, this is worth 10 points. You can only guess once. Only the first person to get it right gets the points, and you can't look it up. So those are the three rules. The prize. The question is, what planet was Hunter on when Order 66 took place? So it's a pretty straightforward question. Sometimes I have to kind of explain what the question means because it's a bit complicated. I only have so much room to put on the graphic I make, but it's a pretty straightforward question. What's the planet called? Yeah, so with that out of the way, leave your answers to that if you know it. C's been doing pretty good, so you'll probably lose to him again, but if you don't, good luck to you. You still got a ways to catch up. But you can do it. I believe in you. So, on to The Bad Batch. Let me collect my thoughts real quick before spewing them out at the microphone. Alright. I don't know if I like... I haven't really decided whether or not I, really enjoyed The Bad Batch or whether it was just a decent show. It has elements that I like. It has potential, but it just kind of feels like it's missing something. Like it's not keeping me engaged enough. And that's just my general thoughts. Let's get into some of the specifics. So, episode 14 starts with Rex giving them, well, it starts with the clone running away. And you've got dogs chasing him. Not real dogs, Star Wars dogs. By the way, I really enjoy it when you see, kind of like the equivalent of, a dog. Or, equivalent of a cat or whatever. But it's, and this is not just in Star Wars, but a Star Wars version. I think that's pretty cool. So yeah, yeah, I just like that. It's cool. And we have seen these before, so it's not like they're introducing these new, dogs that are, with, the spiky things, and they got rough, leathery skin rather than fur. Obviously they're different, but they serve the same function as dogs here, which I really like that type of world-building element. It's pretty cool. But anyways, that's a tangent that probably didn't need to be gone down. So yeah, you got this clone, and when Rex called, I figured he was someone I should recognize, but at the same time, I'm not surprised I didn't recognize him. By the way, before I go any further, this is spoilers, in case you're not, I don't know. Some people do non-spoiler reviews, and I don't know how they do it, because, I would just say I like it, and then that'd be the end of the review. It'd be 5 seconds long. Either way. So yeah, this guy's running away. It's pretty well done. Nothing special though. Then Rex calls the Bad Batch, and yet again, and see, it's not really a problem when you do it once, but when it happens every episode, and it's not even that good of a trope to begin with, but basically, Rex calls them, is hey, we need you to do a job. They're like, well, I don't know, we kind of got bills to pay. Record's like, good point. Yeah, and he Echo's well, it's Rex, though. We can trust him. Record's good point. Or maybe Echo went first. Either way, I thought it was pretty humorous how they did it. But the idea of them discussing it, and then eventually Omega steps up and is well, I think we should do it because I am morally perfect and we're going to go save people because that's what we do. And it's yeah, she's a child, but child can be selfish too. I don't know. It just feels like Omega's a little bit too selfless. If that makes sense, which I know some people just are that way, especially kids who just haven't really grown up yet. They're still pure, they're still innocent, but I don't know. It just feels hollow to me, especially when it's happened so often. You'd think they'd, I don't know. I feel like they could have done something different, and that advances her character more instead of just having the same thing over and over, which just keeps it stagnant. I'm gonna take off my headphones. I don't know why I wear headphones when I stream sometimes. Anyways, so yeah. So again, they go, and from there, it's a pretty good episode actually. Like they break in. It's a pretty typical, like standard Bad Batch breaks into a building. Then they get to the cell, and I realized it's Gregor, and I was like, oh, that's cool, because I had seen, like, obviously I had seen, in spoilers for Rebels, I had seen Gregor in Rebels. I guess saying spoilers for Rebels is kind of a spoiler because I'm talking about Gregor. Anyways, so I knew he was survived. I don't know how, and I was kind of curious to see how he survived. They never delve into that, but I think it's cool how he's a little bit insane. And it made me think, like, he was a bit insane in the Rebels, wasn't he? Because I never thought about that before. I don't know why it didn't cross my mind that Gregor was kind of insane in Rebels, but he totally is. And it kind of makes sense now, thinking, like, oh, maybe it was, like, a head injury after the explosion or something. I don't know. The other thing is, man, in this episode, Katarn armor really got put through its paces. And if you haven't seen, I dropped a video Friday. It actually came out. Usually I drop them on 5 o'clock, but I had work from 12 to 8, so I didn't get it done until 8:30. So I dropped the video Bad Batch versus Von Krell, which I love that premise. Check it out if you, after the video, of course. I mean, honestly, if you want to just leave the video and check it out, you do you. I can't stop you. But in that video, I talk about how Katarn armor is tough, but up until this point, we hadn't really seen much from it, other than I think Wrecker gets hit by Crosshair's, like, sniper rifle. But, I mean, he's down. He survives, but we don't know, like, how long he was out for. Actually, I probably should remember because I just did a video on it. But I think he was out for the rest of the episode. But, yeah, so that is, like, Katarn armor was, like, this one guy, he gets shot or stunned 5 times before he goes down. Like, it's incredible how much Katarn armor. And then at the very end, Hunter, like, falls he falls off of something. I don't remember if he falls off of a ship or off of a cliff. But either way, he like slides down the entire cliff face and survives. And he's like, he's sure he's hurt, but he's not, like, down. He gets up. And he only surrenders because he's surrounded by, like, 10 troopers. So yeah, there's, like, a lot of stuff that happened to people in Katarn armor, and they just shrugged it off. Also at one point, Gregor gets hit in the leg, and he just shrugs it off. And I don't know why, he took his Katarn armor off, like, almost completely. Or wait, no, he was in prison. They should have taken it off him completely. I don't know. I'm getting too bogged down in details at this point. Yeah, either way, it was a pretty good episode. It sets up, and it felt like a normal episode. I don't know how I knew, but I just knew it wasn't going to be another filler one. I don't know, maybe it's just because Rex called them. Maybe it's just the name, War Mantle. That seems like a not filler episode. Yeah, I don't know. But I thought it was not going to be a filler episode, and I wasn't disappointed, because at the end, they didn't just end with them getting away, and then the episode resolves itself. It's like how we talked about I was going to say last week, but it's, 3 weeks now? Last time I reviewed a Bad Batch episode. They introduced the problem, they solved the problem, and end right back where they started. That's filler to me, is where you end right back where you started. And this they did not do, because now Hunter is captured, so they ended up in a worse place. Which, obviously, you need before you can have the big climax, and boom, you end the episode on it's the whole TV show now at this point. You end the whole TV show on a high note. So anyways, Hunter is captured. At the very end, Crosshair shows up, and that's where things start to get really interesting, is when Crosshair shows up. And this is probably my favorite part about the show, is just seeing Crosshair, and, like, how they react to Order 66. It's, like, mostly just Hunter and Crosshair, to be honest. Wrecker and Tech and Echo. Wrecker a little bit. He's got more of a relationship with Omega. That's kind of his thing. Those three don't really react to Order 66 at all. You get to see a bit from Rex, though he's not a main character, so there's that. You get to see some of Hauser, new character, love him. I don't know, he just looks cool, he acts cool, I like him. Then there's, like, obviously the Ryloth movement. That was really interesting to see. That was great world building, because I don't know, I didn't expect Cham to be like peaceful, but it totally makes sense. He's been fighting for peace all his life. Why would he just keep fighting? And I get it, the Empire is bad, that's why he keeps fighting, but like, he so wanted to have peace that he was willing to overlook the Empire's clear just manipulation and corruption and all that. But yeah, anyways, like I was saying, Hunter and Crosshair are probably the most interesting parts of the show to me. And who knows? I'm guessing if they do multiple seasons, Omega will become more and more interesting, the interesting part of the show. But I think Hunter and Crosshair are also another thing, because Hunter's like the team leader, but Crosshair, he like differed, and he wasn't like, I feel like if, you know, okay, I was gonna say I feel like if the other members disagreed, they would probably leave, but or they probably would stay. But you know, I think all of them would leave. Tech would be like, well, this is dumb, I'm getting out of here. Echo might stay. He's pretty good at following orders. Then there's Wrecker. I don't know if Wrecker could be... I just can't see Wrecker disagreeing. he doesn't tend to think very independently. Which, it's not to say he's stupid or anything. Like, there's that stereotype of the big guy being stupid. It's not always true. And it's definitely not true of Wrecker. It's just I feel like he's willing to go along with people. He's willing to be the big strong guy and not the guy making up with the plans. So yeah, I feel like Crosshair is one of the most interesting ones to desert, because he's got that like hard edge where he's willing, like if he disagrees with what Hunter is doing, he's willing to just break ties. He's gonna be your enemy. Tech, I think, would just be like, well, you're wrong, and I'm just gonna go my own way. Echo, I could see being like, well, you're wrong, I really wish you weren't wrong, I'm gonna go my own way. Wrecker, like I said, I can't see him disagreeing. He's just, I don't know, he's too nice. Yeah, so that was a very interesting part. So I was excited when I saw Hunter and Crosshair finally meet face to face again. And I'm kind of glad that I don't know if I'm glad. I think I'm glad. Because this show has kind of had a slow pace. So I think if I watched it spread out, I would have been less satisfied. But I was kind of glad I saved it until actually earlier today. So I got to watch the next episode straight away. And it starts off with, I forget. See, this is the problem when I start things straight away. And I have this problem a lot with books, especially The Wheel of Time. If you've read that, I can't tell you where one book ends and one book begins, except for the first one. I know where that one ends. I think I know where the second one ends. After that, I have no idea. Yeah, so I have this problem all the time. I haven't really had it with Bad Batch just because I've been watching them a week apart, but now I'm having it. I remember the first one ends. The second one, I don't remember where, it begins and what was, epilogue of the last one. I think it starts with them just going to Camino. But then where does it... It ends with the bombardment, doesn't it? Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself and just trying to, outline what I'm going to say, because I don't script these. Okay, so, yeah, they go to Camino. They know it's a trap, but they, I guess, didn't get caught. I mean, they did eventually, but it's they got past the blockade, no problem. Actually, I think they had a small plan to get out of that, but it wasn't super good plan. I remember thinking that. It didn't bother me, but it was just kind of one of those thoughts that was that was a bit of lazy writing, but oh well. Then they land on this underwater platform. That was pretty cool. I think it's actually super interesting, all these secrets of the Caminoans, because they're so closed off. They're so isolationist. They're very interesting. If there's one culture I explore more in Star Wars, it probably wouldn't be Caminoans, but they're on the top of my mind right now, and they're really interesting, so I'm gonna say the Caminoans. What would it be? Yeah, it might be the Caminoans. They're pretty cool. Zabraks, of course, are always cool. I'm thinking Dathomirian, Zabraks, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. The other ones are less interesting. What else is there? Nautilons, we haven't seen much from them. They're cool. I feel like I just like Kid Fisto though. The other Nautilons are kind of boring. The other like two. Actually, you know what? That one apprentice, I don't know his name, but the one apprentice guy from the Clone Wars arc, he's pretty cool. And actually, the only other one I can remember off the top of my head is from the High Republic. He was actually a pretty cool character. He was like in one chapter, but like for being in one chapter, he was pretty cool. Anyways, that's a tangent. That's a really long tangent. Sorry, this episode is probably going to be full of tangents. So, where was I? Right, so they're exploring Camino. They go through this tunnel. It's awesome. Naturally, I had the thought, how come no one has noticed this secret tunnel that goes clearly through the ocean, which is a clear liquid and not like rock? It seems kind of obvious, but I don't know, I guess not. So yeah, that kind of bugged me a lot, but it's, I don't think I've read okay, I may have read a book without plot holes. I don't think I've seen a movie or TV show without plot holes. I mean, I can't think of any. I mean, naturally, there's explanations, of course, for every plot hole, which kind of gets to where, is it really a plot hole, or is it just something that wasn't explained properly? Like, the exhaust vent in Death Star. A lot of people see that as a plot hole. There's like, oh, why did they put an exhaust vent in their giant space station, which generates a bunch of heat? And I'm over there like, well, obviously they need exhaust ports. Where do you think the heat has to go? It has to go into space. Anyway, that's a whole thing. Like, I don't get why that's a plot hole. And I love what they did in Rogue One by addressing the plot hole, but not really the exhaust port, because that's not really the plot hole. I guess the plot hole would be, why would you have your exhaust port directly to the thing that blows up? But it's because they didn't expect it to blow up. They probably have backup generators. So they weren't super worried. Oh no, our power's off, we can use our backup generators. That's probably what they were thinking when they had the exhaust vent. And obviously it's probably more efficient to just shoot straight out instead of having like a curve or whatever you would need to stop the proton torpedo. But that's another tangent. So back to Bad Batch. Yeah, so a bit of a plot hole, but I don't mind because it's a visual medium and those are generally less well written. Not to say that they're worse, but that generally there's just more people working on them. They generally have more problems. So they get to Camino, they realize that Omega is actually older than them. You know, I don't know if this is linear. They might have talked about this after, but they basically show up at Omega's like old room, where she was all lonely and stuff. And that's interesting. I don't have any cool ideas about like how that could be used in the future, so I don't have too much to say speculation wise. It's interesting. I'm curious to know how old Omega is, because she kind of looked like a 10-year-old to me. And I can't imagine the Bad Batch being... Well, okay, how old is Echo? Because he was a cadet, probably about 20. At the beginning of the war, I think. Probably year 1, maybe year 2. So he would be at least 22 maturity, or... Yeah, no, he'd be 11. I can't do math. 20, no, sorry, I can't do math. Okay, so he'd be like 24, like, maturity-wise, but he'd be 12 years old just by counting. Whereas Omega kind of seems 10-ish to me, so, I mean, at most, I could see her being 12, but 13 is kind of, well, I could see her being 13. Not 14, though. 14 is too much. So yeah, I guess she could be older. The other option is she has slowed down aging, which I have heard as an option, but it's, I don't know. The other thing is, if she's 13 and they are 12, she was there for 1 year. That's not kind of the thing where she'd be like, well, I was so lonely until you came and then they took you away. It's kind of just like, well, I was a baby and then you came and then I wasn't lonely and then they took you away and then I was lonely. So, I don't know. And keep in mind, I've only watched the episode once. There could be, like, simple explanations to these that I'm just not coming up with. So yeah, that was that scene, and then they meet up with Crosshair. I think Hunter and Crosshair are also talking, and just, I kind of addressed this a little bit when I was talking about the previous episode and how they meet and how it's interesting, but I'm going to go into a bit more depth between Hunter and, well, mostly just Crosshair, because the other team has this too. The rest of the episode is kind of just them walking around, getting from place to place, It's really just the character conflict for the rest of these 2 episodes. Well, I suppose there's the Kaminoans and how that happens. Kamino's destruction, of course, but that's just kind of like a side conflict. Obviously minus the ramifications that has on the rest of Star Wars War, which I will get to later when I talk about the Kaminoans and that sort of stuff. But right now I just want to talk about the relationships, the decisions, the allegiances inside the squad of the Bad Batch. So Crosshair basically tells Hunter, you left me, you gave up on me. And he's kind of right. And this is something I've wanted to see them do from the beginning of the show. Like literally from episode 2, I thought the show was going to be, all right, team, we need to get Crosshair back. They did something to him. He is not the same person. Let's go get him back. And they never did that. Not once. The only reason they went back to Kamino is because of Hunter. They didn't go back to Crosshair just for Hunter. I don't know, that it just bugs me. The other thing, and this bugs me just as much, is Crosshair says his chip isn't out. And it's been out for a while. I don't know what he means by a while, he doesn't specify, but I would assume he would mean like by a while for like before they left. That's kind of how I think of a while, but clearly he had a shift in personality. Clearly they did something to his chip which made it worse, and he seemed to act that way ever since. I can't see a time when it was like, oh, his chip is out. It just kind of feels like something they said. Yeah, I don't know. It makes me wonder if he's was lied to, or if he's lying to them. I don't know, because it just seems like he had his chip in the entire time to me. It doesn't seem like anything, like he didn't have any shift in personality after the Order 66 thing. So that was a little bit strange to me, and that just makes it seem like, oh, Crosshair is not like a redeemable hero. He's actually just a bad guy. Well, I guess he was a bad guy the entire time. Wow, that's kind of disappointing considering I wanted him to be a hero. But nope, I guess he was a bad guy the entire time, and it's not his chip controlling him. Then you have, of course, like I was saying, Hunter, Tech, and Wrecker and Echo just leaving Crosshair, which, I mean, I didn't like it. But the way Crosshair, like, says it, like, you abandoned me, it, like, makes it even worse for me, because it points at it. It says, look, you were right. They should have been going and getting Crosshair. And I don't know. It's interesting character conflict, which I think it's in some ways it's better than what we've been getting before, with mostly filler episodes, some action, some plot development, but not that much character development. Like, sure, we've been getting to know the characters, but the characters haven't been shifting. And there is a big difference between character development and like a character arc. I don't know if character development and character arc might be the same thing, but like, words aside, you probably know what I mean. Like, getting to know a character and seeing a character change are different. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think in this, we're seeing characters like conflict, like they're hearing the other side, they're like seeing each other, and they're having to work together even though they don't like each other, or not that, it's that they disagree with each other. And that creates conflict, which creates change. Generally, sometimes it's like the same. Sometimes you like double down, but then usually when you're doubling down, it's like, sure, your like core stays the same, but your reasoning, your drive, it's different. Yeah, usually it's stronger because you're doubling down on it, right? But anyways, so yeah, that was cool to see. I really actually liked one line from Tech. Who was it? I think it was maybe Echo talking to Crosshair. It might have been Wrecker. Basically, they were disagreeing about something, and Echo said, well, you can't fault him, it's just his nature. And Crosshair's like, well, why are you defending me? And he's like, I'm not defending you. You can disagree and just, like, still, I don't remember the exact words he used, but I don't know, it just felt like something that Tech would totally say. Like, super blunt, super just technical, like, I don't know. So, that, I think the dialogue was really, the characterization through dialogue was good. And then also, I think I did mention this briefly, but even Echo, who sadly in this TV show has just felt like an extra character, which is really sad, because I mean, he's a new addition to the team, so he already feels different. He's not like them, because he's like a robot rather than a mutant, so he's already different that way. Also, he seems to get the least amount of character development. Like, you could argue Tech gets less. That's actually a fair argument, I'd say. But it just feels like Echo gets less because he has those other two things. So Echo's just kind of getting singled out a bit. The other thing is he's probably the weakest there, I would say. Him and Echo, or him and Tech, he is Echo, have pretty much the same skill or area of expertise. They have different skill sets. Echo can plug into computers and interact with them that way. Tech is just better at technology generally, and just intelligence as well. But I think combatively, Tech is just better because he can wield 2 guns and Echo only wields 1. I'm sure you can focus more with 1, but you can shoot half as fast, and Echo has shown that he can aim and fire faster with 2 hands than you would be able to with 1 hand. So, yeah, I don't know. Echo just feels like he got the short straw in this season, which is really sad. Yeah, so let's talk about Kaminoans, the Empire, all that stuff. So, I actually don't remember what episode this took place in. I think it was probably the beginning of the 15th, though I'm really not sure. Basically, the Admiral guy, I think is Rampart, he walks in and says, yeah, we don't really need you Kaminoans anymore. We're leaving. And then he says, like, oh, we need the scientists, though. But we don't need you. You're just an administrator. Which is, I liked it. I don't know why. It's kind of a weird detail to pick up on and enjoy, but sometimes you just gotta like the things that just make sense. And it's like, oh yeah, that's believable. I like it. There are some interesting things you do there. Because now you've got the Kaminoans are not satisfied, and they're clearly not satisfied. They were literally trying to leave before, but now not only were they not satisfied, now they're like kidnapped, like not like literally kidnapped, but it's like Galen Urso type kidnapped. Like they had no choice. They had to go. They weren't given a choice, which I just said. So yeah, so they're working for the Empire now as scientists, which I think is very interesting, and I know there's going to be season 2. I haven't watched any videos or seen any articles about it, but I've seen thumbnails. So I know they've announced a season 2, or that they're doing season 2. So I'm looking forward to that. And one of the things I'm most looking forward to, other than obviously Crosshair and Hunter and Omega and all her character development. One thing I'm looking forward to is the Kaminoans and how they're going to, deal with the Empire. And I think we're going to be seeing Dr. Parshing, or maybe someone like that leads Dr. Parshing. And I feel like the Bad Batch has a few strong tie-ins with the Mandalorian that it can really pull on. And I don't know if that will. It could really connect with a season 3 or maybe even a season 4. This could be, because I don't know when season 2 is coming out. Kind of seems like there's a lot on the schedule for Star Wars coming out now. You got the Ahsoka show, the Andor show, Book of Boba. You got Mando season 3, Acolyte. You got all this stuff, and that's just the TV shows. You've also got a movie coming, although that's not for a while. You've got books, the whole High Republic era to be explored. Though I did mention Acolyte already. Obviously, you've got just so much room for exploration in Star Wars. So, yeah, season 2 could take a while to get out. That said, it might just come out next spring. It's like we had Clone Wars. This year we had Bad Batch. Next year we have Bad Batch Season 2. Could be that. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is it could tie into whatever Mandalorian season comes after that. Which I think could be pretty cool. I really like when things tie in together. It makes the universe feel more connected, like it's actually one universe, which obviously makes it feel more believable, and not really believable, but more immersive, because it's not just a bunch of stories being told about a setting. It's like a place that where one thing happens in one area, it has consequences in another, and when actions have consequences, it's more real, or feels more real. I could get really abstract and say it's real in our minds, but I don't need to go into that. So yeah, that's pretty much, as far as I can tell, that's most of my thoughts on these 3 episodes. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to bring up. Kamino is one of my favorite planets. So seeing Topoka City just getting bombarded, that was pretty sad. I don't know. It wasn't that sad though. We haven't spent that much time in there. The music was really good. Good music on this. Obviously all the like editing and the animation, all that was good too. I'm definitely not like good at critiquing that stuff. Like I watched the prequels, I'm like, whoa, that's a real fish. How did they make it so big? It's like, I don't care if it's CGI or not. It looks believable enough. So definitely don't ask me if your animation is high quality or not, unless it's obvious if it's high quality or not. Then I can tell you. But like Bad Batch, okay, I can actually tell season 7 of Clone Wars is a lot better than season 1. And Rebels is a bit simplistic as well. But for the most part, I don't care when I'm watching it. It's only when I think back, was that high quality? I suppose it was. Season 7, oh my goodness, that was beautiful. And it could just be just the shots as well, because I don't know. The other thing is I'm not like a camera person either. So it's like, what would it be? The director or the, I don't even know. See, this is why I don't like pretend to know these type of things, because I don't. So yeah, it looks good. But that's just a average person saying that. So take that with a grain of salt, or a grain of sand, if you prefer. Although I can't imagine you prefer sand. I don't like sand. Okay, let's talk about Bad Batch as a whole, just more generally. Not necessarily more generally, but just taking things from everything. So it started off with a really long episode, an hour long, I think. And there were a couple things I really didn't like in it. The first one, it's like one of the first things we see is Kanan and Deepa Billaba. They're on the right planet of color. They're fighting separatists. That's good. But the problem is there was a comic released a while ago. I don't know when. I actually haven't read the comic, but I know of its existence. And it is telling the story of Kanan Jarrus and Deepa Billaba going through Order 66. And they didn't like adapt that comic. They just like took some elements, left some others, and just decided to say, that comic, we don't care if it's canon. We're just gonna get rid of it. And this is something that I just like. Star Wars, to me, one of the main reasons I like it is because, like I was saying, actions have consequences. Something happens, it's a big galaxy. Those things can be felt across the galaxy. There's so much information. There's so much to explore. There's like 40 books, probably more by now. Probably like 50 not by now, I think. Probably a little bit more than that. I don't know. There's like 50 books. There's like 4 TV shows. 5 count Resistance. Is that right? And there's more coming, by the way. Then you've got like, counting again, 11 movies. There's a lot of content. Oh, and also all the comics, which sadly I haven't read most of them. And the ones I have read, I haven't like physically read them. It's been like YouTube videos about them. So yeah, it doesn't really count. But either way, there's a lot of comics. That's a lot of stuff to keep up with, and it just makes it feel more like believable. Because you can immerse yourself in it so much. There's like, you can't be like, oh, well, what was happening over there? We don't know. It's a fictional world and we can't go see. It's like, no, just pick up this comic that talked about it. It's great. Now, naturally, at this point in canon, it's not quite like Legends where everything has been explored. There's only like the one little era, and then we're exploring the High Republic. Yeah, we're getting there. And yeah, I hope it continues. But because that's one of the things I like so much, when there are plot inconsistencies in Star Wars, it really bugs me. And it's not like, oh, there's sound in space, or oh, there's bombs falling in space. Which, by the way, if you didn't know, bombs fall in space in The Empire Strikes Back too. Just, I think that's funny. So like I was saying, it's like inconsistencies. Like, well, there was this comic, But, you know, me, Dave Filoni, the person that everyone praises as the hope and salvation of the fandom, and all hail Dave Filoni or whatever, I'm just going to ignore it because I want to tell the story of Kanan Jarrus. And not only that, but just the execution wasn't even that good. Like, sure, it was an emotional scene, but did you really need Kanan Jarrus there? Like, you could have done any other Jedi, and it wouldn't have changed the story of the Bad Batch, as we know. And it's so hard to judge something that isn't fully out yet. And I know season 1 is fully out of the Bad Batch, but season 2 could like tie into Kanan Jarrus. I don't think it will, based on A New Dawn, though I suppose they could just not care about A New Dawn either, because they just ignore the comic. But I hope they don't do that, because A New Dawn was a good book. And I like the story. It's a good story, and if they change it, that means my time has been wasted. It means it's not a real universe. You can't immerse yourself in it, because it's not real, because it can just be changed at the whim of a creator. Instead of exploring this universe, you're being told it's not real, basically. That's what, like, breaking continuity does. And that goes for plot holes, too. And this is why I don't like The Rise of Skywalker very much. It's because there's a lot in there that you can really just tear to shreds if you think about it for a second. And not just like, oh, you know, that doesn't make sense. Why would they use their swords like this? They should be used more like fencing, because they're really heavy in the hilt, but they're really light in the blade. Yeah, check out Shadiversity if you want to see all the plot holes in Star Wars. Sword enthusiast, sequel hater. I mean, he's got a lot. Yeah, he gets intense. It's pretty fun. But he's smart too. He's not like one of those guys who's like nitpicking everything. Like he's a nitpicker, but he's mostly fair, and he points out a lot of things that most people wouldn't think about just because they don't have his expertise in some areas. Anyways, I'm getting off on a tangent. Shadiversity, if you want to check that out. Yeah, you can try and sound that out. You'll get to it. So, what was I talking about? Right. The Bad Batch episode. Right. Kanan Jarrus, retcons. There we go. Okay. I'm back on track, guys. So, after that happens, it's a pretty good episode. Unfortunately, the whole thing just left a bad taste in my mouth for the rest of the episode. Not literally, that's the saying. So, it was a good episode. I like the training scene where they're not really a training scene, but like a testing scene where they're in the training place, but Chargan is testing them. I liked that. The feel was just a little bit directionless and empty, I would say. And that's mostly because the Bad Batch don't know what's going on. That's kind of intentional, but at the same time, it hurts the story that it feels directionless. It's because they have no idea what's going on. If they had some idea and they were trying to figure out if they were right and if they were like wrong and they had to readjust, now there's a story. But if it's just like wondering what's going on, wandering around aimlessly, it's not. It just feels directionless. It feels like you're waiting for nothing. It gets boring. Now obviously it wasn't that bad. It's not like it was just I was sitting there and I'm like, this is so boring, not doing anything. No, it was good. It just, I think, could have been better if it had that little bit of intrigue. Just a little bit more payoff or progress or whatever. So then they escape. Crosshair obviously stays back, and that is like... I don't remember if I had this spoiled or not. I know that I had heard that Crosshair was not going to be in it because of the trailers. This is why I don't like watching like breakdowns of trailers and all that and like looking for leaks. I'd rather just experience the story how it's intended. But I don't know. It's hard to avoid it when you're like subscribed to a whole bunch of Star Wars channels and you like watching Star Wars channels. You make Star Wars content. It's kind of hard to avoid that type of stuff. And it's, yeah, I don't know. I just don't like speculating that much. Because it ruins the story for me. And I would say maybe when I was younger, before, I don't know if it's because of The Last Jedi, but before The Last Jedi, I know I speculated a lot more. But since then, I've just kind of been like, well, if I speculate, I might come up with something really good and be wrong and disappointed, and that would be sad. Which, I mean, has happened to me. Ironically, what had me upset in The Last Jedi was I thought Rey was gonna, or I should say the theory that I was most disappointed, and it wasn't like this was like, this is why I don't like The Last Jedi. There are a lot of other reasons why I don't think it's the best Star Wars movie. I'm actually one of those people who's, it's like middle of the road for me. And not like compared to other Star Wars movies, but like as a movie, it's middle of the road. It's not terrible. It's not good. But as I was saying, one of the things that I wanted to be true, and it turned out it kind of wasn't, was I was going for Rey Palpatine. And then that happened in The Rise of Skywalker, and I was like, well, you could have just said that in The Last Jedi, but no, I guess not. And I don't know. I don't want to keep talking about the sequels. That disappointed me. Bad Batch, right. I keep getting sidetracked. I'm on like the second episode. So anyways, they leave. Bad Batch leaves them. Or not Bad Batch. Crosshair leaves them. So sad. Then they meet up with Cut LaQuaine, which was pretty cool. Cool to see him. Unfortunately, they didn't really do that much with him. It feels like it should be a really good episode. And this is what I'll say about the Bad Batch, is they have some cool cameos that make the episode feel like it should be really good. Like it should just be this awesome episode where a lot happens, but then not that much happens. And the Bad Batch meet this cool character and then say goodbye to them at the end of the episode, and they're in the same spot as before. And this is what happened in the Cut LaQuaine episode. And forgive me if I'm misremembering. It's been a while. I only watched it when it came out. And I don't think I've seen it since. But they meet Cut LaQuaine. They help him get off planet. They learn a bit of world building. That's cool. You get to know the characters a little bit better. That's cool, especially Omega. Again, not like character arc, not like developing those characters. There's not that much change. There's a little bit, but not that much change. But you get to see them a bit more. There's all that stuff, but that's just, it's the tip of the iceberg of what you could be doing. And at the end of the episode, they're in the same spot as before. There's not that much progress. Then episode 3 comes. And this is, this one was, this is probably I have such a love-hate relationship with this one, because part of it, the Bad Batch part, was so filler. It was like the most filler thing you could come up with. Their ship breaks down, they crash on a moon with literally no life on it, like no like sentient life. And their ship is damaged, a monster takes a piece of the ship, and they go get it back and leave. It's like so like filler. It like that is like one of the most filler explanations I've ever given. I mean, again, there's some like getting to know the characters, and more so the characters. Like you could say it's character development, like they're changing, but it's really just them getting to know each other better. And I'm speaking specifically of Omega being more independent than Hunter expects, which, to be honest, that is another thing I don't really like that much about Omega, is she seems like she's too good at, it's not like she's too good at everything, but she's good enough at everything to be competent and morally good. Like she's always looking out for other people. She's very selfless. So those two together just make her almost too good. If she had like a negative quality, like she was not very strong, I mean, I suppose she's not, but she's a child. What do you expect? If she was like clearly not very physically skilled, but mentally competent and morally good, that'd be good. Or if it was like she was like mentally not super good, didn't make the best decisions, but physically pretty good, but then morally like outstanding, again, good. But if you flip it around, then you have a bad guy and you've got like this spooky bad guy who's really smart, they're decent, what do you call it, like physical, and then just morally not good. So Sidious, except, well, no, Sidious is that'd be Tarkin then. Yeah, Tarkin I would say is like that. Vader is the other way, where he's morally evil, but he's mentally decent, or pretty good, but you know, like for his skill level as a villain, he's decent, and then physically just off the charts. He's amazing. So that's a long tangent to say that this episode was definitely not one of my favorites, because it kind of points out Omega as just being too good, which is I think a problem that she has a little bit. It's not as bad as it could be. It's not like show ruining, but it's there. And then the whole thing is just filler. However, like I can bash on that part of the episode for like all day. Okay, maybe not all day, but I just bashed on it for a while. You get what I mean. But then there's the Crosshair part of the episode, which is really good. I mentioned this part talking about the other one, but they go meet Saw Gerrera in the first episode. And they're like, well, we're not going to kill civilians. Well, Crosshair goes up, finds Saw Gerrera again. Don't know why he didn't move, but I don't know, whatever. Well, he moved, his people didn't. Anyways, Crosshair shows up and kills a troop for not killing them. And then his troops kill the people. So that happened. That's pretty dark. I don't know why his troops didn't mutiny against him. It seems kind of, I don't know, like they outnumber him a lot. They all disagree with him. Why, like, he just killed one of their own. Like, are they just gonna risk getting killed by him too? I don't know. I'm not them. I don't know them that well. They're kind of just nameless, faceless people in the evil squad. So, I don't know. And as we know now, they die at the very end anyways. So, yeah, they don't get any character development. Yeah, they look cool. They look like Death Troopers, which, interesting connection, which I'm not sure if they're going to explore that more. If they do, I'm interested. If they don't, oh well. So yeah, that's my thoughts on episode 3. I mean, on one hand, it was so filler. On the other hand, it was so good for showing who Crosshair is at this point. Again, not much character development, like a character arc, but just getting to see where he's at is good. You really need one of those. Like, naturally, if Luke just starts off and he's at the farm and he's learning to be a Jedi already, that's not good. You need to see him at the farm. You need to see him in his, like, normal world, and then he goes out on his adventure and changes, comes back to the normal world, a different person. That's the hero's journey. But yeah, you don't start the change immediately. You got to get to know them first. And so we know Crosshair. And yeah, so then you have episode 4, which this one felt filler to me. This one, I'm pretty sure this is the one where they go to Pantora. Do they meet? Okay, they meet with, no, they go to Pantora. I don't know why. They just end up there. I mean, they have to stop somewhere. May as well be Pantora. Anyways, they stop at Pantora. They get hunted by Fennec Shand. We start seeing, and actually this was set up a little bit in the last episode, so I guess it's not totally filler, but Wrecker is starting to have headaches. Then he gets taken out by Fennec Shand after one hit to the head, which, it's believable. Fennec Shand, I liked her. She was good in The Mandalorian. She was a good sniper. She's dangerous. That's great. But, and I'll talk more about this later when we get to her versus Cad Bane, but I think she's too skilled in hand-to-hand combat now. Not only is she a real good sniper, but she's also good in hand-to-hand combat, which, I hate to say it, but it's another Mary Sue, and yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested to see more of her backstory, and maybe there's like a reason she's that skilled that could maybe it could be like, instead of like just powerful for no reason, it's maybe there's a reason. Who knows? But then again, you always want a narrative reason, not just a like in-universe reason. Like, let's say you have a character who, I don't know, just comes out of nowhere and is like, well, I got hit by 2 stars at once and they neutralized each other because one was a negative star, and I gained superpowers like Superman, so now I can take out Yoda and Sidious at the same time. Like, that is an explanation. Doesn't make much sense. You could come up with a better one, but you get what I mean. Someone that just comes out of the blue, sure, decent explanation, but why are you here for the story's sake? I don't get it. So that's kind of how I feel about Fennec Shand. Again, I'll get more into that later. But that's that episode. It seemed filler at first, but now I realize it does set up meeting Sid, which is a big part of this season. I don't know. They'll probably bring it back next season. I don't know. They were working on a job for Sid at the beginning of episode 14. Then you've got the bounty hunter chasing them, which is different from Cad Bane, which I loved that. That was cool. I don't know that I've ever seen like 2 different factions sending bounty hunters after the same target. I'm sure it's happened before, but I just can't think of any specific times where I remember that. And that's a cool concept. Um, I like it. Then there is episode 5. I'm trying to think what happens in that one. I think that one they just meet Sid and they go to the Rancor place. You know what? I'm going to pull up Disney Plus on my phone so I can see the episodes and all that. But while I do that, I'll talk about the Rancor. Again, it was kind of advanced the plot, but at the same time, it was like they meet Sid, they have to do this job, they come back, and they're like, oh, it's this person who we know nothing about. Great, that doesn't help us at all. And that plot line drops until, it drops from their ability to pursue it further. Here's the problem with that, is it's not that nothing happened in that episode. Like, something happened. They figure out, oh, it's this person. I actually don't remember exactly what they figure out. But they figure out, oh, it's this person named Fennec Shand or whatever. But they can't do anything about that. They don't know who sent them. They don't know their skill set. They don't know anything about it. So that information is completely useless to them. So while it's technically not filler, because Fennec Shand does show up again, it's, not it doesn't help them to be the protagonist because they're not proactive. Which I think, it's something that really bothers me, is in this show, they're just not proactive. The protagonists are so passive. They're just trying to survive. And it's, I don't know, it's not as good. Alright, episode 6, Decommissioned. Oh, right, this one. So this one, this is the one where they meet up with the Martez sisters. And then, again, it's kind of filler up until the last 5 seconds where you see a cloaked figure, which turns out to be Rex. Which, I don't know, Rex in a cloak just doesn't seem right to me. I guess it does make sense. I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way, but it's kind of like, I don't know if you can relate to this, but you feel like something should be wrong, but then you think about it for a second and you're like, no, that's totally right, but I feel like it's wrong, but it must be right. And it's like your subconscious and your conscious are conflicting, and you know your conscious is right. Your conscious is like, yeah, I'm totally right. There's no way. I've double checked it. The logic is there, but your subconscious is like, but why would you wear a cloak? I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. That bugged me a little bit. Weird tangent, but okay. Yeah, so the Martez sisters show up. Again, it's like they do a mission, and there's no plot development, no character development, up until the last 5 seconds when someone shows up. You know what I mean. It's mostly filler. Next is episode 7, Battle Scars. This one, I don't know what happened with this one, because this one, Rex shows up, they get their inhibitor strips removed, Wrecker goes on a rampage for a bit before he gets his removed. It should have been awesome. I didn't like it. I've seen other people's reviews. They loved it. It was awesome for them. But I don't like it. I don't know why. It just felt slow. It felt predictable. Literally everything that happened after Rex showed up was predictable. I think. They stop at the water, or they stop at the Venator. Tech says, oh, there's water. Suddenly they're crossing the thing. The rope is bending out. I'm like, oh, Wrecker's gonna fall in. Wrecker falls in. Then, of course, he doesn't die. And I'm like, oh, they made it to the facility. Guess what? Wrecker's going to go on a rampage just before he gets his chip removed. Oh, look, Wrecker went on a rampage just before he got his chip removed. And then he gets taken down. Obviously, they're not going to kill Omega like that. Because that would be bloody. Because it's Wrecker, not Crosshair. So, yeah, I don't know what happened to that episode. It's probably just my mood or something. I don't know. I probably watched it at the wrong time. Maybe I should rewatch it, but I don't know. I feel like the problems I have with it are it's too predictable. And because of that, it feels like not much is happening because I've been wanting it to happen for a long time. Since, what is it? Literally in episode 3, people were like, I think Wrecker's chip might act up. And then 4 was like, oh yeah, his chip is acting up. 5 was like, oh yeah, oh my goodness, he fought that Rancor. He's gonna blow soon. I can't wait. And then episode 6 comes in, it's like, oh, he's saying the lines. Is he gonna do anything? Nope. I guess we're gonna wait more. And then by the time 7 came around, everyone was like, okay, finally, he made it. Or, okay, not everyone, just me, I guess, because most people liked it. But I was like, okay, finally, he did it. All right, it's finally over. And it wasn't like a, oh my goodness, I was right, that foreshadowing was like, it wasn't like a, oh wow, there's such a good twist, all those things make sense now. It was like a, ooh, they finally did it. I don't know why it just took a while. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt throughout the entire episode. And again, it's like they did stuff, but they didn't like learn stuff or change stuff. At least that's what it felt like to me. Hunter is still Hunter, Tech is still Tech, Echo is still Echo, and not in like a mischaracterized way, like not how a lot of people view Luke in The Last Jedi. Like Luke at the beginning of The Last Jedi, or let's say you have a character named Jake Skywalker in the beginning of The Last Jedi, and this, if you like The Last Jedi, if you think this is consistent with this character, that's totally fine. Just imagine a hypothetical scenario, same character arc, that is still the same character. It's just, he changed though. You see what I mean? Hunter is still just the same Hunter as he was at the beginning of the show, as he was in the Clone Wars. Like, you look at the Hunter from the Clone Wars, you look at him now, I mean, maybe you just know him better, but he's the same character. Same with Tech for sure. Echo for, well, okay. Echo, he went through some changes throughout the Clone Wars, but in Bad Batch, he doesn't really change anything. Crosshair, okay, Crosshair might have changed a bit. But it was really just Order 66 happened and he changed. And over time, you understand that change better. He's not really changing, you're just understanding him better. And he's the villain, he's the antagonist, so he needs the change to us. Like, think Thanos. Thanos doesn't change. Vader, okay, Vader changes, but he's kind of the hero of the main story. Sidious doesn't change. Dooku doesn't change. He does in, like, other material, but episodes 2 through the Clone Wars and 3, he doesn't really change. Darth Maul never changes. That's, like, actually one of his things. He never changes. He never learns. Grievous definitely never changes. He's always the same thing. I'll get you next time. I'll run away. That's Grievous. At least in the canon. In Legends, he was quite a bit different. Man, that 2003 clone, I think it's 2003. Whichever one is like two-dimensional animation, I can't say it anymore. Animation, the two-dimensional animation, Grievous in that was just insanity. So was everything in that, but Grievous for sure. Alright, I think I finally understand why I don't like that episode. This talk has really helped. Thanks for listening if you're listening. If you're liking the content, make sure to like. We are like an hour in, and I'm like halfway done through the episodes. Reunion, episode 8. I really liked that. Again, it's Crosshair. He just steals the show every time he's there. I want to know more. Like, I feel like for the entire show, I wanted to understand, or I wanted to see what they would do about Crosshair. But they just kept doing all these side quests. And I feel like they were just missing the main point, which is Crosshair. He's your brother. You've worked with him for years. And you're just going to leave him? And that's even how Crosshair puts it. And that just like, I don't know. It's, so every time he's there, he steals the show. Because I want to see more development. Not like character development for him. But I want to see him interact with the rest of the Bad Batch. And what they do about him. Because that's kind of the driving force in the show for me. For a lot of people, it's just the world building, which, yeah, I love the world building. It's amazing, but it's also kind of like, it can't be the driving force of your story. Otherwise, it's just a Wikipedia page, or it's literally just exposition. That's what world building is. World building is interesting. All the stories I like, one of my favorite parts about them is the world building. It's just so good, but you can't have it be the focus of your story. There's no emotion there. There's no interest there. It's just, oh, what if there was a planet where you could use earth powers, but every time you did, trees died. And that leads to a lot of interesting things. What would the civilizations be like? What would, like, farming be like? What would, like, construction be like? Would there be, like, an evil order of mages that uses these earth powers? Would there be, like, some sort of law, like, you can only use your earth powers? Like, you know, there's a lot of interesting stuff you could go into there. You could throw in, like, oh, I don't know, the day cycle is, like, an hour long. So you've got night, day, night, day, night, day. And that leads to some interesting things. What would that do to sleeping? Like, what would that do to society? Alternatively, you could go, what if it's, like, night for a year and then light for a year. That's another interesting thing. There's so much interesting things you can do with world building, but it's just empty without a story to tell. It just doesn't work. It's just exposition. So yeah, that's my thoughts on what was that? Right. Okay, the world building. The other thing, right? I was talking about why I like the show. The other thing is Omega. I think that's another reason why people like the show. And keep in mind, I'm not speaking like from I polled people. Why do you like the show? No, I'm just guessing based on what's in the show, what people probably look for in the show, and a little bit of what I've heard. But it's like, a few Star Wars channels I watch, their reviews. Then you've got, you've got Crosshair, which is the one I'm interested in most, and just what he's doing with the Bad Batch and that whole relationship, more so what the Bad Batch are going to do about him, which honestly they never did, which it's really upsetting. Then you've got Omega, and her whole relationship. That's interesting world building, because what is her purpose? Why do the Caminos think she's so important? What's special about her? That's interesting. But you also have her character development with her, I guess, being accepted by the Bad Batch, or Hunter becoming a dad. I don't really know. Wrecker becoming a cool uncle. Tech and Echo. Never mind. Jokes aside. Yeah, I mean, there's interesting stuff there. It's just, we already had the Mandalorian. Let's be honest, that was a better version. All right, moving on. Forgot about the end of episode 8, where Omega gets captured by Cad Bane. Man, that truly solidified that as my favorite episode, I think. Actually, I don't think I was sure if I liked it more than episode 1. But I think I did like it more than episode 1. It was pretty good. So Cad Bane shows up. He's this gunslinger. He takes on Hunter just so easily. But then the next episode, here's the thing. Omega gets captured. They could have done so much with that. But literally the next episode, Omega frees herself, calls the Bad Batch, they show up, Fennec Shand shows up, takes out Cad Bane, or not takes out, but takes on Cad Bane. Like, not even sniper, just bare hands, and she's a sniper, and Cad Bane's not a sniper. And then Omega escapes in one episode. Why did they not milk that more? I know milking it is they milked that franchise. Like, it's such a negative thing to say, but it's not actually a bad thing to let people feel those feelings of what's gonna happen. How are they gonna get Omega back? It's not bad to draw things out, but that doesn't, obviously you don't want to draw everything out. A lot of the show, I think, could have been condensed, but in this particular instance, I think you could have drawn it out and it would have added a lot more tension. But they didn't do anything with it. They just had her escape. And that leads me directly into episode 9, Bounty Lost, which I talked about briefly, just a little bit ago, and also when I was talking about episode 3, 4, where Fennec Shand shows up. Fennec Shand versus Cad Bane. That whole fight should have been Cad Bane absolutely dominating. Think about it. Fennec Shand is not known as one of the top 100. Sure, she's good. Mando recognized her immediately. But Cad Bane is Cad Bane. Add to that the fact that they're fighting close range. Fennec Shand, when we first meet her at least when we first meet her, she's a sniper. Now, she's not really seen to be a sniper in the previous episode, but what's she gonna do? Snipe Omega? That doesn't make sense. I mean, I guess she can snipe Hunter, but how is that gonna get Omega to trust her? That's just gonna be traumatic for Omega, and that's a problem. She clearly has some physical skills, but Mando beats her. So now we have Fennec Shand going up against Cad Bane in close range, and Cad Bane, it was back and forth a lot, but Cad Bane should have just dominated that. I mean, I'd have to do a full breakdown to really get in the nitty gritty details about it, but I remember that I was unimpressed. And there are, I don't know. Again, it goes back to consistency, and just actions have consequences. You see Fennec Shand do this, Well, now why is she serving Boba Fett? She should be able to take Boba Fett. I mean, obviously, if she did this when she was like this inexperienced, because remember, she's new. That's what what's her name? Blanking on the name. The Trandoshan person, Sid. Sid said when she's like a new bounty hunter. Like, this is a pretty new one, but she's risen through the ranks. Which, sure, I'm fine with that, but that doesn't mean she can take on Cad Bane. I digress, but that upset me so much. Especially because, like, look around my channel, I do Star Wars duels. Analyzing how powerful characters are is, like, my thing. That gets really hard when you see Fennec Shand take out Cad Bane. Then again, Cad Bane's not the most consistent. He barely beats Ahsoka Tano, and then barely escapes Obi-Wan and Quinlan Vos at the same time. So there's that. And it's not, keep in mind, this is not Ahsoka Tano of like Rebels era. This is like Ahsoka Tano season 1. Like, just became an apprentice to Anakin. So moving on to Common Ground, which, let me look up a bit. Yeah, okay. So this was actually had a really good opening, in my opinion. Like, immediately, I liked this guy. The separatist leader who's like trying to calm the mobs when the Empire shows up and is not being nice because they were the former Republic. They were at war with the separatists for a while, so obviously they're not gonna be nice. So this guy, he's like trying to form the mob or calm the mob, not form it. He's definitely not trying to form a mob. He's not like submissive to the Empire. Like, obviously he is at first, but then he isn't. But at the same time, he's not like, we need to fight and cause violence and destruction to make the evil people pay. No, he's like, guys, listen, there's some corruption going on here. I gotta be honest. And at that point, it's just over. So yeah, immediately I like this guy. Then the escape was pretty good. The action was good. Again, it was pretty filler. And it could have been great. They could have done something with it. They could have had the separatist guy as like, not really, but somewhat of a reoccurring character. Maybe not like a Grogu, or obviously not that. Not like a, I don't know. There's not really an equivalent in the Mandalorian, but like, not like a Plo Koon, in the Clone Wars. More like a Kit Fisto, where he's there occasionally, but really it's just Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, occasionally Plo Koon. You know what I mean? There a little bit, but not really. But he doesn't show up for the rest, which is kind of sad. Because the other thing is the idea of them rescuing a separatist senator. They are ex-Republic forces, and they're not like ex-Republic because they disagree with the Republic. They're ex-Republic because the Republic's gone. So they're still very much Republic. Like, they're clones through and through. And they're helping a separatist senator. They dealt with that a little bit, but they could have done so much more with that. That episode could have been like a 4-part arc of brilliance. And it's just kind of disappointing. At the same time, I can't really complain. It was a good episode. I mean, I just did complain, so I can complain, but you know what I mean. It was a good episode. I liked it. Next up, we've got Devil's Deal, which featured the Bad Batch about 1 scene. So, yeah, it was good. I liked it. I feel like they did the characterization very well. I touched on that a little bit with Cham Syndulla seeking peace instead of violence, which we know him as this like violent fighter. He's hard. He's tough. He's willing to fight for Ryloth. But man, his characterization in this was so good. It's unexpected for him to be that way, but it totally makes sense when you think about it. He's been fighting for peace for so long. His children have just grown up in war. He wants them to have the rest of their childhood in peace. The separatists are gone. Why does he need to fight? It's the Empire. They can't be that bad, but they are, and so he has to fight. And it's this tragedy. It's sad. And by the way, when I talk about 11, I'll talk about 12 too. It's pretty good. One of the main gripes I had with this is specifically 12, but this whole arc is the Bad Batch didn't really seem like they should have been invested in it. I mean, again, it's like Omega's like, but we should help people, and the Bad Batch are like, well, I suppose we should be good people, and Omega's like, yeah, let's be good people, and they're like, okay, let's go, and then they do it. Well, actually, they go. They're like, oh look, Crosshair's here. He's gonna ruin everything. And Omega's like, well, we should be good people though. And then they do it. I mean, she came up with a plan too, but like, you know what I mean. It's just kind of like Omega being like, we should be good people, and so they be good people, regardless of like what that means, what the cost is. Like there's so much that they don't consider. Yeah, like they do consider it, they talk about it, but they don't do anything about it. So that's my thoughts on those two. Again, pretty good. Just I don't know, their motivation wasn't that good. Yeah, so I like those. Also, there's the whole Captain Hauser storyline. That was cool, and I really hope they do more on that in season 2. There's a lot of potential there, and I'm pretty sure they will do that. Even if it's just based on fan reactions, a lot of people seem to like that. So, excuse me. Yeah, they'll probably do a bunch on that. Moving on to episode, what is it? 13. Should have known that just by thinking, but I looked at it anyways. Infested. And this is one last filler episode before we go into the actual episodes. Because for whatever reason, these animated TV shows just decide, you know what? We need a filler episode here. Otherwise, it'd be too interesting. Which, that's a pretty passive-aggressive way to say it. But to be honest, that's kind of how I feel at this point. And you know what? Even Mando had that. Like you look at Clone Wars, there's a few filler episodes. Then you look at Rebels. A lot of that is pretty filler. And that's why people don't like it. I feel like if you took out those filler episodes and you just replaced it with like Trials of the Darksaber, like it would be awesome. Such a good episode. You replace it with Kanan learning to see after becoming blinded, and I mean see like metaphorically and with the Force and all that. You replace it with Ezra starting to turn to the dark side and actually explore that a bit more. That's one gripe I have with it. Also give him more of a connection to Space Whales to foreshadow him beating Thrawn the Ruodo of all people. Like, imagine beating Thrawn if, like, with the Space Whales, if Space Whales had been, like, a reoccurring thing. And there was the Lothwolves who also had that, like, weird teleportation, hyperspacey travel thing that happened. But, yeah, I don't know. I haven't talked extensively about Rebels. I probably will eventually. But, yeah, so I'll leave that for a later date. But yeah, just filler episodes have been all over. And then even, like I was saying, Mando had that as well. You had episode 1, 2, and 3 were all really good. Then you had 4, you had 5, 6 I enjoyed, but let's be honest, it was kind of filler. Then you had 7 and 8, which were phenomenal. Just, I don't think I said that word right. They were really good. Really good episodes. 8 is just by far not by far. The other ones are good. It was really good though. That I remember because I was at a wrestling meet, but I had it downloaded. So after I had all my wrestling matches done, I watched it, and the bus came late, like way late, like hours late. So I watched it like 4 times in that one night. It was ridiculous, but I enjoyed it every single time. That's how good it was. Yeah. So you can watch my review for my full thoughts on that, but I really like it. Off of that tangent, now we get to Clone Wars Season 7, to be honest, even that had filler-ish episodes. Those being the, obviously, Ahsoka and Martez sisters. And to be honest, they weren't really filler. They were showing where Ahsoka's at. That's kind of important for what happens next. But you probably could have condensed it a bit, and people wouldn't be like, oh, it's too rushed. Because at this point, 4 episodes for just some character development, I don't know, or not even development, just getting to know where she's at. That's kind of the whole theme of this review, I think, is the difference between getting to know a character and watching how they develop. First you get to know them, and then you develop, and then the story ends. But I feel like in Bad Batch, and frankly, in a lot of, okay, that's not true. I was gonna say in a lot of Dave Filoni's, but never mind, that's not true at all. Specifically in Bad Batch, I think it's a lot of just getting to know the characters and not as much developing the characters. Yeah, so then, what was I going to say? Then you have Mando Season 2. You have episode 1, really fun episode, loved that. Just a great way to reintroduce Mando. Kind of like the equivalent of The Force Awakens, to be honest. Although, I actually like it a lot better than The Force Awakens. But it's just a fun episode. A lot of people enjoyed it just because it's fun, and that's all it really needed to be. Then episode 2 comes, and that was pretty filler, to be honest. I mean, he kind of just ended in the same place he started, except his ship was more damaged, which, man, his ship gets damaged a lot in that season. It was a little bit damaged in season 1, but it was more just like an older ship. And then of course it gets blown up at the end, which, along with his rifle, which is so sad. I love that rifle. Okay, talked enough about Mando. Let's move on to the Bad Batch, where, I mean, I've just run through the episodes, and like half of them have been mostly filler. Like, it's a problem, I think. And obviously it's subjective, so like you could be like, well, actually I thought they were all interesting for these reasons, and you know what? I can't dispute that you enjoyed them. I can't dispute that you think they were significant to the plot and characters. But I can say that I think most of them were filler. And by the way, when I say filler, I don't mean like they were completely pointless. A lot of them have had like a little tease at the end. And that's mostly it. A lot of them have had a little bit of world building. A lot of them have a little bit of getting to know the characters. But like I said, it's filler because it could have done or should have done more. And it's not just like the pacing is too slow or anything. It's just they should have had more development for the characters and whatnot. All right, moving on to the last 3 episodes, and I covered them at the beginning, so I'm just going to cover them briefly. Probably all at once. Just one big story arc. It was good. A good ending, though a little bit underwhelming. I think a lot of people go into these shows expecting just something amazing to happen, and the Bad Batch just didn't really do anything crazy or out of the ordinary. They just kind of showed the Bad Batch doing some stuff, which isn't bad in itself, but when you go in expecting, like, I don't even know, like, movie level ramifications, and you get this, they end at the same place they started, with Crosshair with the Empire, and the Bad Batch on their own. And obviously there's some world building that happens, but that's just changing the time. They just progress to a different time, but they're in the same place socially, they're in the same factions. There's been no like switching sides, no development, no one's changed. And obviously that's not perfectly true, but you get what I mean. Not that much has changed from the beginning. Like, you look at Luke in the beginning of A New Hope, you look at him in the end of A New Hope, or even you look at him at the end of Return of the Jedi. That is a completely different person. I mean, obviously, you get what I mean. It's the same person, but he's changed so much. As I said, you look at any of the Bad Batch characters at the beginning, and you look at them at the end, not that much has changed comparatively. I suppose you could say the same. Well, no, I was gonna say the same thing of Han Solo, but really he changed a lot too. You could say from episode 6 he didn't have that much, which that's something some people have rightfully critiqued. Is that maybe he should have died in episode 5. Not sure that wouldn't make any sense, because if he died in not sure the one they proposed is the freezing pit, he dies there. But if he dies there, then why would Vader test it on Luke? It doesn't make sense. So they can't do that. But what are they going to do with him? I guess they could have him die at the beginning, but then that kind of invalidates the rescue. I don't know. I'd have to think about that a lot more. But even the prequels, you look at, Anakin in the beginning, he's just a kid. You miss most of his development to the between stuff. But let's just look at Revenge of the Sith. He's got development there. He starts out as this heroic but flawed character who's got all this emotion, like hidden emotion. It's like this emotion that he knows he's not supposed to have, and he feels guilt over it and shame, and so he doesn't tell anyone, and he keeps it hidden, and he tries to keep it under, but he really wants to save Padme, and in the end he just breaks, and he gives everything up for Padme. He destroys the Jedi, Mace Windu, but effectively the Jedi. Mace Windu kind of had it coming, to be honest. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I can't really blame Windu, because that's just who he is. But at the same time, I do kind of blame Windu. Anyways, yeah, Anakin is much different at the end. And there have been some accusations of it being rushed. I don't think so personally, but I get it. It does kind of feel rushed, or it doesn't feel rushed to me. But I see what you're saying if you say it's rushed. You look at, let's look at the sequels. You got, as I was saying, Luke. You might not disagree with where he was at the beginning of The Last Jedi, but his character arc there is actually pretty well done. Um, Naturally, it's just kind of disappointing to me because it's the character arc he had in the, not really the character arc he had. He just already was there in the episode 4, and now he's suddenly not there in episode 8, and we don't get to see that transformation. It's kind of a big transformation to make, don't you think? But enough sequel hating. Let's get back to Bad Batch. Not much has changed, to be honest. Or not much for the main characters. Obviously, you have Topoka City destroyed. You have the Empire instead of the Republic. That's a pretty big transition. But in terms of character development, there's not that much. And in terms of, like, whatever the plot is, I mean, I don't know what the driving plot of... Like, I see what the driving plot of... for the galaxy as a whole is, but for this TV show, I don't really know what the driving plot was supposed to be, because not that much happened that was significant to the main characters. Hence why they didn't change, because not that much happened to them. So that is my review of the entire Bad Batch. And, you know, I will say this. I feel like I've been a little bit negative. Okay, a lot of it negative in this review. There is a lot negative to say about the Bad Batch TV show. There's a lot of critiques you can make. But in all honesty, I find it a lot easier to critique things than I do to say like the good things about them, because I just expect them to be good. I guess. Like, when I see like a good story, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's perfectly logical, and I accept it, and I don't think about it. And that's good storytelling because it's immersive. Like, I don't even have to think about it. But I see something that doesn't click, and I go, why doesn't that click? And I focus on it, and it makes it really easy to critique things for me. And I don't know if that's true of all people, but that's definitely true of me. So I know I've been pretty negative about this show, but in all honesty, I do enjoy it. There are things that I find incredibly boring. Specific parts of episode 3 that I could just rail on for you know how long I railed on for that. I don't, because I wasn't counting. But, like, you know what I mean. There are parts of this that I just went, okay, this is just so slow. Just move on. Just get to the next episode. But overall, it's a pretty good show. There's some themes it's discussing very slowly, but still discussing. There's some themes it brings up that you can think about on your own, which I approve of. That's nice too. So overall, it's a good episode. It's just a little bit underwhelming to me, I would say. But still good. So with that, goodbye, old friends.